Welcome back to Vintage HLC Show and Tell. Today we're going to look at Octagon jugs. Now this is a specialty shape that was introduced around 1914, and there are 4 sizes of Octagon jugs. So we'll start with the largest, which is a 12's jug, 3 3/8 pints. If you want to know what these trade sizes mean, go back and look at video number 6 where I did a special piece on explaining the trade sizes, particularly with the hollowware. So this is your largest size jug. All of them have lids. Now I should mention that when these were offered, you could get them with or without the lid. So if you find one without it, it's not that big of a deal. Though it is better to have a lid with these. This one with the blue treatment, this was also used on the Empress shape by the way, is pattern J20. And sometimes you can see the treatment numbers either on the inside of the lid or on the bottom. In this case, it is on the bottom. And this comes from 1914. We also have a couple of panel mugs. Now these are not 8-sided like the Octagon jugs, these are 10-sided. Though they didn't call them decagon mugs, they just called them paneled mugs. These did not last nearly as long as the Octagon jugs did. This is probably discontinued sometime in the 1920s. Next we have a piece that was picked up for Quaker. And this has a very Quaker-like border decal on it. And in fact, it's the only piece I've found that has the Quaker marking on it. I should say it's the only Octagon jug I've found. And it has Quaker 1120N, so this is 1920. And in the back we have 2 specialty pieces, one with grapes and the garland treatment. I think we saw this jug when I did a video on the garland gold stamp. And another one with gold stamps. We'll see what year this one's from. This is from 1914. We'll go ahead and look at this one too. It is from, ooh, that's kind of hard to read. Oh, hold on a second, I gotta look at this close. I think that's 1926. Has the Made in the USA, and I think that's a 6 after the letter F. I also did a video on markings not too long ago that explains the date codes. Next size is a 24's jug, which is 2 1/2 pint. And we have a lidded one with green and yellow bands. This comes from 1916. The one with nasturtiums in the back, that was probably picked up for Quaker. It has this black trim. That's unreadable. I'm guessing that comes from the 1920s because if it was used with Quaker. And then this one with the colorful decal and the garland stamp comes from 1926. Has that Made in USA in the marking. The next size is the 30's jug, which is 1 3/4 pint. Colorful bird decal with gold trim. This is pattern number J27. It comes from 1922. This is the Raymond decal that was used with Yellowstone. In fact, we're going to talk about Yellowstone in a minute. This has the red trim, and it comes from 1926. Blue onion, that's J6. I think it has its treatment number. It does. And this comes from 1916. And the back is also J6, however it's a larger version of the blue onion treatment. That would have been more appropriate on the 24's jug, but here it is on a 30's jug. It doesn't have a lid. This one does. Again, they were sold with and without lids. This was probably picked up and used with a Quaker treatment with that typical border, and it comes from 1920. And then we have the 36's jug, which is 1 1/8 pint. So we have this treatment with the green and yellow, and it, I think that's 1919, another mark that's very hard to read. Gladiolas, that treatment was used on Century for the most part. Here we see it on an Octagon jug. That's 1940. This is really late for an Octagon jug. Usually, you won't see them in the 1950s, but 1940s pretty uncommon. Now we have to talk about Yellowstone. because Yellowstone was introduced around 1926, and it's an octagon shape. And most dinnerware shapes had full assortments of jugs that matched the rest of the dinnerware. In the case of Yellowstone, they didn't make one that matched the other hollowware. What they did was they just picked up octagon jugs. Since it was already 8-sided and they were already in production, they just blended them in with this set. But there were only 4 octagon jugs, so they made 2 extras. They made the 42s, which is 1 pint, and then a 48, which is 5/8 of a pint. I don't have one of the 48s to show you. So these two with the vellum glaze come from Yellowstone. And we can put them side by side and you can see the difference. Ivory versus vellum. This one with the gold band comes from 1932. And this one with this pastel rose decal, we see this a lot on the Yellowstone shape, comes from 1932 as well. This one is a Woolworths treatment. It's W127-30, and it is dated 1935. So, one thing about these jugs that I should mention, and it involves the 30s jug. When they're listed in the Octagon listings, it's always 1 3/4 pint, but when it's in Yellowstone, it's 1 7/8 pint. I don't know if there's a really distinct difference between the two. I mean, I know this one comes from Yellowstone, and this one does not, and I can't tell any significant difference between the two. When I fill them with liquid, they're pretty much the same. I mean, 3/4 and 7/8 is not that big of a difference. It's only 1/8 of a difference. But that is something I wanted to mention, that in the listings, there is, 7/8 versus 3/4, which to me it's not a big deal, but I just wanted to point that out. So I think that's going to be it for today, Octagon jugs.